Number 10. Death in El Dorado Canyon. A climber was discovered dead at the El Dorado Canyon in Colorado. According to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, a call came in at around 6 o'clock at night from a group of climbers who discovered the body of Scott Dewey. He was alone, not breathing, and had no pulse. There was no evidence of foul play, and it quickly became apparent that he had died while solo climbing up the side of a cliff. There were no ropes found, no harnesses, and he had no protection of any kind. This is something called free soloing, in which a climber has nothing but shoes and a chalk bag. It's the most dangerous form of climbing that a person can do. The people who came across his body never heard or saw the fall. They were just unfortunate enough to find the corpse. The accident appeared to be recent. Just a few hours had gone by before he was found. Once his identity was confirmed, the authorities learned that Scott was a dedicated climber who spent a lot of time in El Dorado Canyon. He frequently climbed by himself just for the thrill of it. And to be honest, this is a dangerous enough canyon even when you have safety protection. Just before Scott's fatal fall, two different climbers who had the proper safety equipment fell when one of their anchors ripped. They fell down 100 feet to the ground below and died instantly. And 2 years before that, in 2019, a different free solo climber also fell to their death here. All of these deaths make the El Dorado Canyon one of the most dangerous places to climb in all of Colorado. Number 9. The climbing prodigy, Luce Douady. A French climbing prodigy named Lucy Douady fell 500 feet to her brutal death after she slipped from a path while walking up to a cliff. The French teenager, only 16 years old, was already a climbing champion at the time of her death. She was walking with a group of friends through the French Alps to a climbing spot when she slipped off the path. This was tragic and a little ironic. It would be one thing if she fell from an extreme height while attempting a brave solo climb, but it seems unbelievable that she died while walking with her friends. People who knew Lutz said that she was bound to be an Olympian and was hoping to compete as a climber at the Tokyo Games. She was part of a French climbing team. She had a bronze medal from a European event, and she had a junior world championship title. She has been described as full of energy, passionate, and wildly talented. The fall happened when Luce was walking across an exposed path near Crolles and St. Pancras. Even though she wasn't climbing, it was still a dangerous area to walk. There were no guardrails, and the edge of the path was right beside her. What she should have done was secure her cable to the makeshift handrail as she walked across, but she didn't, likely because she had been there multiple times before and was confident enough to do it by herself. But her foot slipped out from under her. She went over the edge, and all the experience in the world couldn't save her. The next 10 seconds must have been terrifying as she plummeted all the way down to the ground. Number 8. Mexican climbing fail. The American free solo climber Brad Gobright died in Mexico while trying to descend down the side of a sheer cliff face. Brad had already climbed up the cliff in El Potrero Chico, one of the most popular destinations for rock climbers in northern Mexico. It was coming down that proved troublesome. At the time, Brad was climbing with Aidan Jacobson, another American solo climber. Aidan had ventured into the mountains for a 3-week-long trip and had bumped into Brad somewhere along the way. They started climbing together. They were having an awesome time exploring the wilderness, and then disaster struck. The pair were descending at about 3:30 in the afternoon, but their route down the cliff was poorly chosen, and both of them lost their footing and fell. While Brad tumbled about 900 feet to his death, Aidan only fell a short distance. Aidan injured his ankle and was a little banged up, but he survived. Brad, on the other hand, may as well have jumped off the top of Mount Everest. He hit the ground at terminal velocity and made a bloody mess on the rocks. Number 7. Surviving the impossible. On the morning of April 11, 2021, a group of climbers was getting ready to scale the After 7 route at Yosemite National Park. As they were getting ready, they saw a lone climber heading for an extremely challenging route called the Nutcracker. Both the group and the solo climber were scaling the Manure Pile Buttress, which is located on Yosemite's north side. It's a 600-foot rock formation that usually takes climbers a full day to get to the top of. It is dangerous, but it's not the most dangerous, and for this reason, it's wildly popular with free soloists. as the group of climbers were busy making their way to the top. Just shortly after seeing the solo climber take a different route, they heard shouting from below. The noise was somebody to call for 911. As it turned out, the solo climber had fallen somewhere between 150 and 200 feet and broke themselves on the ground. The solo climber was Josh Orada from the California area. He had climbed the exact same route before, both using safety equipment and not using safety equipment. Never before had he had an accident. The really amazing part is that Josh survived. Normally, if somebody falls 200 feet straight down, they crack open like an egg. But in the case of Josh, he only suffered a few injuries. A helicopter was able to take him to the nearest hospital, where doctors discovered that he shattered his right heel, sprained his ankle, fractured his pelvis, broke some ribs, collapsed one of his lungs, and broke his thumb. He had to have surgery to fuse his spine and to put plates and pins in his thumb and in his heel, but he did survive. Have you ever been scared for your life while climbing? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. A dramatic rescue. While Emily Harrington was trying to climb El Capitan at Yosemite National Park, she took a tumble. The 33-year-old climber was with her boyfriend, another climber named Adrian Ballinger, and their friend Alex Honnold. Alex and her boyfriend were obsessed with becoming the first people to climb El Capitan without using a rope. Emily Harrington was also interested in getting to the top of El Capitan freestyle, no ropes and no safety. An experienced climber, Emily had already scaled Mount Everest, the Ama Dablam mountain in Nepal, and the lesser-known Cho Oyu. But El Capitan holds a certain appeal to climbers because it's 3,000 feet of vertical climbing. It's extremely challenging and horribly dangerous. Alex had already been preparing to climb it solo for 2 years. Emily was 100 feet below Alex when he heard her scream. Keep in mind that this wasn't completely without safety equipment. They were climbing using a technique called simul climbing. It's where they put their equipment very spread out. The result here is that there are huge gaps between safety points, but the climbers can move much quicker. It's the next most dangerous thing to free climbing. When Emily fell, Alex was able to quickly reach out and grab a rope, which saved her life. If he hadn't grabbed the rope instinctively as he saw it falling beside him, because of the huge gaps between placements, she would have splattered on the ground. Instead, she banged her head on a rock, suffered some minor scrapes and bruises, but was otherwise perfectly fine. She's even said that she still plans on climbing El Capitan solo in the future. Number 5. Dead in Tennessee. Tennessee probably isn't the first place you think of when somebody mentions mountain climbing. And yet, Tennessee was the recent location of a terrifying death of a beloved rock climber. We don't know his name, but the National Park Service has said that he was a 34-year-old guy from Colombia. He was climbing at the Big South Fork National River when he plunged 100 feet off the side of a cliff to his death. When the national park officials went to investigate, they realized that the climber hadn't been using any of the proper ropes or pieces of equipment. He was free soloing. This park is home to the Twin Arches, arguably one of the most impressive geological features anywhere in the eastern United States. The arches are also popular for rock climbers, since the tallest is only about 103 feet. It can easily be climbed in just a few hours, even if you're not super experienced. People climb it despite the fact that climbing is prohibited in most areas of the park. You're not allowed to climb on the arches or most of the cliffs, especially because they're made of loose and soft rocks. This makes them wildly unstable and dangerous. For our unfortunate free climber, he found out just how dangerous the hard way. Number 4. Dead in the water. 2 climbers from the United States were soloing off the coast of Majorca when something went wrong and they fell into the water. To understand this a bit better, keep in mind that the cliffs of Majorca, located in Spain, overlook the ocean. It's a beautiful place, but it's also extremely dangerous to be free climbing. According to authorities in Spain, both American men arrived at the climbing site from Barcelona hours before their accident. They haven't been named for privacy reasons. As they began to climb the treacherous cliffs, something happened that caused them both to fall off and hit the water. Both men hit the ocean so hard that they broke their bodies and were unable to keep their heads above the surface. If they didn't die from their injuries, they died from drowning. Their bodies were discovered by swimmers who alerted the lifeguard, but the lifeguard was unable to resuscitate either of the men, and they are pronounced dead at the scene. Number 3. Straight down the mountain. Austin Howell was known for being one of the most courageous solo climbers anywhere in the world, but his current ended up getting him dead when he fell while climbing the Short-Off Mountain in North Carolina. He was only 31 years old at the time of his death, falling at an unspecified time in the late morning. Rescue crews had to rappel down the side of the mountain to reach his body. The other climbers beat them to it and tried to perform CPR to resuscitate him, but because he fell and broke himself, likely collapsing both of his lungs, there wasn't much that CPR could do. While nobody knows exactly how high up he was, other climbers believe he was about 20 feet from the top. They looked up and saw him there, and the next second, his body was streaking to the bottom. They never even heard him scream, suggesting he just kind of accepted what was happening as he fell and closed his eyes and welcomed the warm embrace of death. Number 2. Swept away. Michael Reardon was a lot of things. He loved free soloing. He was a motivational speaker. He wrote in his spare time, and he even made films. The American climber was 42 years old when he traveled to Ireland to climb up the side of the Sea Cliff in County Kerry. He had decades of experience climbing rocks without using harnesses or ropes. He was the real definition of a professional, and that makes his death in 2007 so ironic. You see, it wasn't the cliff that killed him, but a wave. As Michael was scaling up the side of the sea cliff, a wave jumped out of the sea, knocked him off the rock, and then swallowed him down to its icy depths. He was reported missing after witnesses saw him fall into the water. But despite the help from the Irish Coast Guard, his body couldn't be found. They searched all along the cliffs and in the water, but Michael's body was never recovered. Before long, it had probably turned into fish food. Number 1. Too young to climb. An Italian climb prodigy named Tito Claudio Traversa was one of the youngest skilled climbers to ever be born. He climbed his first cliff at the age of 10, and by the age of 12, had become an insanely skilled climber. But in 2003, his life as a climber was cut tragically short when he fell 50 feet and died. Tito was climbing in France at the time, and French officials doing the investigation found that his equipment had been assembled incorrectly. Little to his knowledge, he had been free climbing completely by accident. 8 out of his 10 quick draws were assembled in such a way that they could not support his weight if he fell. And fell he did. He expected to be kept safely in place by his equipment, but the quick draws and carabiners were all wrong, and so he plummeted to the ground. The only silver lining here is that because this is France, everyone involved has been seriously punished. 5 people were charged with manslaughter: the owner of the company that produced the equipment, the owner of the shop that sold the equipment, the manager who organized the climbing trip, and 2 instructors who were present at the time. All 5 of them were charged with manslaughter for failing to check the boy's equipment, resulting in his death. Would you dare try free climbing knowing how deadly it can be? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching. For more great videos, remember to hit subscribe. See you next time. Bye!